Good evening. I'd like to call the April 7th, 2021 Board of Selectmen's meeting to order at 6:30. And I have a little information I have to read. Good evening and welcome to the meeting of the Board of Selectmen. Due to COVID-19 coronavirus crisis and in accordance with Governor Sununu Emergency Order 7, pursuant to Executive Order 2020-04, this board is authorized to meet electronically. However, the board has jointly decided to proceed with a hybrid meeting format, allowing for members of the public and the board to attend and participate in the meeting in person or virtually, and all the board members are here tonight. Votes taken during this meeting will be via roll call vote and for all members. In accordance with Emergency Order Number 12, for members of the public, this is to confirm that we are present. Providing public access to the meeting by telephone with additional access possibility by video or other electronic means through GoToMeeting. All members of the public and the board have the ability to communicate contemporaneously during this meeting through the GoToMeeting platform, and the public has access to contemporaneously listen and, if necessary, participate in this meeting through dialing the following phone number: 1-646-749-3122, followed by the audio access code 447-550-261, or by video following the directions on the Town of Wolfeboro's website posted on the home page under the virtual town meeting login information page. Providing public notice of the necessary information for accessing the meeting. We previously gave notice to the public of how to access the meeting in person or using the GoToMeeting, and instructions are provided on the town website at wolfeboronh.us on the virtual town meeting login information page. Providing a mechanism for the public to alert the public body during the meeting if there are problems with access. If anybody has a problem accessing the meeting by phone or computer, please immediately call 603-387-8259, and that's my cell phone number, or email townmanager@wolfeboronh.us. In the event that the public is unable to access the meeting, we will adjourn the meeting and have it rescheduled at that time. And now I'll do a roll call vote for attendance. Brian?
Here.
Luke?
Here.
Dave?
Here.
Brad Harriman?
Here.
And Linda is here. Okay, first item, Mr. Town Manager, do we have need for a non-public session?
Madam Chairman, we do not have a need this evening.
Okay, no need. Okay, the first item on the agenda, the minutes of March 31st, 2021. And I would like to table these minutes. For some reason, the information on us going into non-public and coming out are not part of it. I'd like them to be, that information to be put in, and then we'll take a look at them the next time. So can I have a motion from somebody to table the March 31st, 2021 minutes?
So moved. Second.
Okay. Any further discussion? Brian?
Yes.
Luke?
Yes.
Dave?
Yes.
Brad?
Yes.
And Linda says yes.
Madam Chairman?
Yes?
Can we just verify for the recording secretary the people who made the motion and seconded? I think it was Brad made the motion and Dave seconded.
I think it was Dave
The
and
other
then
way.
Brad.
The other way around?
Okay,
Yeah.
I'll make sure I call those out. Okay, the next set of minutes is the April 7th. and I'd also like to table them. We made huge number of appointments, and for some reason, it's missing all the roll call votes, which we took, so I would like these minutes tabled. Also, on page 9, I made an error in the motion, and it should say $900, not $900,000, and I'd like her to, a little difference there. I'd like that corrected also.
Yeah, Madam Chairman, that's actually supposed to be 900,000 rather than 942,000.
I thought it was $900.
No, it's 900,000. It should be coming out of the capital reserve for the purchase of the ladder truck, not 942,000.
Well, we can correct that. I don't have,
Yep.
all right? I thought it was 900. I thought the whole thing was 1,300 for the ladder truck.
1.3 million.
For the ladder truck?
Yeah.
Okay, so then that 900,000 is correct.
Yes.
All right. I was told that it wasn't.
Yeah, so the motion that you made reflected 942,000 coming out of the account. The 942,000 is actually what is in the capital reserve fund, and the warrant article was written so that 900,000 was to come out of the capital reserve and the balance was to come from unexpended fund balance.
Okay, we'll get that corrected.
Yep.
All righty. So can I have a motion to table this set of minutes?
So moved.
That's Dave Senical. Second?
Second.
And that's Luke. Brian?
Yes.
Luke?
Yes.
Linda's yes. Dave?
Yes.
Brad?
Yes.
Okay. The next item on the agenda is a public hearing. The Wolfeboro Board of Selectmen will hold a public hearing on Wednesday, April 21st, 2021, at 6:30 p.m. to consider the application for issuance of a alcohol beverage permit to the Friends of Abenaki to host an anniversary party at Abenaki Lodge on June 26, 2021, from 5 p.m. to 8 p.m. pursuant to the Town Code, Chapter 5, Alcoholic Beverages. All right, and I'd like to open that public hearing. Do I have anybody in the audience who would like to speak to this? Just state your name for the record, please.
Peter Cole. Abenaki has been an important place for Judy and me for 50 years. We've skied, hiked, biked, cross-country skied around year-round. Judy's laid out most of the cross-country, the current snowshoe trail, and she maintains it every year. I was the Kingswood ski coach in the 70s, a founding board member of the Friends of Abenaki, and was deeply involved in the fundraising and installation of snowmaking, the new lodge, and the racing shed. So we have a history. When we decided to celebrate the 80th birthday of one of us, she who will not be named, and our 60th wedding anniversary, Abenaki was our first 20 choices. It is beautiful in summer. It is basically unused 9 months of the year and should be introduced to our non-skiing residents. Our celebration will involve mostly our family and local folks of our generation. We expect to be outside on the terrace and will serve beer and wine and hors d'oeuvres. A jazz piano will entertain because I like pianos in Wolfeboro. We have a $1 million, $5 million liability insurance policy with the town as a named insured. We hope many more residents and visitors will follow in our footsteps and make use of the Abenaki Mountain Resort and Spa, as I like to call it. And that the town will actively encourage them to do so. To that end, some landscaping and cleanup will go a long way. I do ask the board to approve our request. Thank you.
Thank you. Is there anybody else who'd like to speak to this temporary event permit? Hearing and seeing none, I'll close the public hearing. Board members, does anybody have any comments or questions?
I have one.
Brian?
I hope you plan on being safe as best as you can. And my question just would be, is there any Wolfeboro employees, town employees, that are going to be there? And does anything special have to be done for their safety?
I'll pass that over to the town manager.
Yeah, I believe Christine has got that coordinated. I don't think that there is any need for any extraordinary measures taken above what's already there. I'm not sure if she's planning on having staff there or not at this point, but I can get the answers to that.
There's no need for staff that I know of, and these people are all going to be mostly in their 80s, so I think they'll be double vaccinated, and we're going to be outdoors, and it's going to be June 26th, so I think that's not a problem.
Hey, is there any other board members that has any comments or questions? Hearing none, can I have a motion?
I'll move to grant the issuance of an alcoholic beverages permit to the Friends of Abenaki to host an anniversary party at Abenaki Lodge, June 26, 2021, from 5 to 8 p.m.
Can I have a second?
Second.
Okay, motion was made by Dave Sanical, seconded by Luke. Any further discussion? Hearing none. Brian?
Yes.
Luke?
Yes.
Linda's yes. Dave?
Yes.
Brad?
Yes.
Okay, you have your permit. You're welcome. Okay, the next item on the agenda is public input. 3 minutes per person, not to exceed 15 minutes in all. Do I have anybody who'd like to provide public input at this time?
Hello, Linda. This is Suzanne.
Yes, Suzanne?
I have a question for the town manager, for which he may like to think about it for a minute or two and respond at the end of the meeting.
Okay.
When the fire chief retired, is the town obligated to him for any pension? And if the answer is yes, how is that funded out of the current budget?
The answer to that is no. And the reason is that is part of the New Hampshire retirement system, not anything exclusively to do with the town of Wolfeboro.
Good. Thank you for the answer.
Would anybody else like to speak? Yes. Come on up, state your name.
Good evening. My name is Bob Telfer and I live on Clark Road. Madam Chairwoman, I'm just curious, with the agenda item with Patty Monahan, will she be able to speak when that agenda item comes up?
Yeah, she asked for an appointment, and that's why we put her on the agenda.
Okay, thank you so much. That's all.
Thank you. Anybody else like to speak at this time? Please just state your name for the record.
Yes, Justin Martin, pastor of Calvary Wolfeboro here in town. And we failed to get an application in time for the agenda for a gathering, a prayer gathering that we would like to have us and 5 other churches in the area. And so I was hoping for May 6th that we could submit this today, and I believe there's a meeting on the 5th. The day before, and so just to give as much time as possible. At Cape Park in downtown Wolfeboro, this is an event we had last year that went very well, and so it would be more or less identical, but would have some live gathering as well as a streamed gathering. It's Calvary Wolfeboro, First Congregational Church of Ossipee, Be Free in Alton, Melvin Village Community Church, First Baptist of Wolfeboro, and the Wolfeboro Bible Church.
I think if you can hand that over to the town manager, we will, and you have it all filled out, we'll try to get that through.
Yeah, our next meeting would be May the 5th. I believe you've already spoken with some staff today. This has got to make the rounds through the department heads, and we can have it ready for the May 5th meeting without issue.
Thank you very much.
Okay. Is there anybody else who'd like to give public input at this time? Hearing none, we will move on. The next item on the agenda is the bulk vote. We have weekly manifests, April 9th, it's $912,532.48. On April 16th, it was $385,314.88.
Yes.
We have current use applications. We have a property tax credit and exemption, and we have a ratio study that is being filed with the state on our reassessment. And I was surprised to see that the 2020 weighted mean was 92.3. We just had our properties reassessed. That usually comes in between 98 and 96%. I think this is an indication that we have a lot of properties being sold, and they're being sold a lot higher than our assessed value. And I'm guessing that sometime the state's going to ask us to do an update sales analysis, because usually these reassessments go 5 years, and this isn't going to make 5 years. So I was surprised to see that. Does anybody else have any comments or questions on the bulk vote?
I'll move to approve the bulk vote items A through D.
Okay, do I have a second?
I second.
I have, okay, so I have Dave Senical moved and Brian seconded. Any further discussion? Hearing none. Brian?
Yes.
Luke?
Yes.
Dave?
Yes.
Brad?
Yes.
And I'm yes. Okay, moving right along. We have no appointments. New business, commercial vehicle landing permit, Mount Washington.
Thank you.
Just state your name for the record.
Good evening, Jim Morach from Mount Washington Cruises. So glad to be here in person tonight. I had called the town manager a couple of weeks ago to let him know we did want to file our permit, even though I can't give you a start date at this point. With COVID and everything, a number of things that we've been doing in our capital reinvestment has put us behind, and one of the things is hauling the mount out of the water for annual, I shouldn't say annual, but routine inspection that we do every 7 to 8 years. That's going to take place, knock on wood, sometime in the first or second week of May. At which point we do have a number of things we want to address with her. You know, the propellers, the rudder, things like that. We are in hopes of being here as early as mid to late June, but only God knows what we'll find when we pull her out of the water. So I'd rather put in an application at this point to let you know we do intend to do that. The governor has certainly opened things up for us. We'll open up more, I believe, starting in May. Good news, on another front, the mailboats OPC will be back in the water this year for the first time in 2 years, as we did a lot of maintenance on her. I wish it was sooner, but again, COVID kept a number of vendors away from us last year for long periods of time. We also purchased another vessel to add to our fleet, which you'll see on the lake this year. We're in the process of getting that ready to be brought up here from Newington. We purchased it from a gentleman in New Jersey. So stay tuned on that one, I would say. No press releases have been put out yet, but we certainly will be putting one out soon on that. So it's a smaller vessel. It's 59 feet, but it's a beautiful charter vessel. And you may see it come into Wolfeboro if we were to have a small group that wanted to come out or something like that. But we're still planning her season at this point. I did present the town manager with our permit, and I did put in there unknown as to how many landings. Until I know that start date, I won't be able to figure those numbers out. So, but I did include the insurance and the signed permit as well. So I do ask this evening whether you can give me a vote tonight or not. Is entirely up to you, but I just want you to know that I'm here to answer any questions, and we look forward to coming back. It's been a long time.
Mr. Pineo, aren't we waiving the landing permits because we got paid last year?
I'm not sure how we finalized that, whether you got a refund or whether we held that. And
you did hold it, and
so, yeah.
I had asked for you to hold it for this year. It was so the first payment is in.
Yep.
Okay, and that you've got, so we're all set for the first payment.
Exactly.
Do you know, are you going to be using the same schedule? We have some other new businesses in town that are running small boats, and we want to make sure that they know your schedule and they're not in on our commercial dock while you're coming in. And if you don't have it now, as soon as you can get it to us, then we will tell them what kind of a schedule they can have.
Yeah, it is our intent to come back to full strength, but again, I think that's still got to be determined with how much the governor is going to open in May. But the sooner we can get back to normalcy, I think the better. And part of that is being able to come into Wolfeboro. I've got a number of motor coach tours, I think, that are still up in the air, but they want to get back and they want to start doing things. So it's been well, for everybody, it's been difficult to rearrange things for your business, but we're still around. And it actually gave us some time, as I was saying, for us to reinvest into our company for the future. And part of that is, again, doing some work on the Mount Washington and dry dock in the next month and a half or so.
Good. Does any other board member have any questions? Thank you very much for coming in. I'm sure Wolfeboro residents and tourists are going to be glad to see you back, and so we look forward to having you come into town, and hopefully it's sooner than later and that the governor will allow that.
Well, I can appreciate that, and I can only tell you that no one looks forward more than I do to bring the old girl back into Wolfeboro. So, thank you.
Thank you. All right. We have another commercial vehicle landing permit, the Slappy Hour. Are they here?
Yes, this is Mallory. I'm on the web. Hi.
Hi.
We are a new business. This is our first season going to be operating, and we'd like to provide first-class luxury tours and adventures on Lake Winnipesaukee. We'd like to bring some commerce to Wolfeboro, and we're not looking to tie up the dock or anything. We'd like to come and go, as we pick up our customers and drop them off for some dining in Wolfeboro.
Can you just state your name so that the secretary has that for the record?
Yep, my name is Mallory Murphy.
Okay, thank you, Mallory. Do you have a schedule on when you're coming in, and we are going to want you to not be here when our other boats are in?
Correct. We are understanding of the other boat schedules. We do not currently have a schedule. I mentioned it to the town manager that with this being a new business, we're still acquiring clients at this time. So our schedule is kind of up in the air at the moment, but we are very much happy to work around the other vessel schedules and such as needed.
Okay. Any other board members have any comments or concerns or questions? Brian?
I'm just wondering, are you going to be picking up folks in Wolfeboro that will be parking in the area?
That is a possibility that some of our customers would be parking in the area.
Okay, can you just make a notation in your business plan that they should park in the municipal lot in Wolfeboro?
Absolutely.
Okay. And how long will you be docking each time when you have to be there to pick up and drop off?
It would simply be just as long as it takes to load the customers onto the vessel and then to drop them back off. So ideally, 10, 15 minutes, however long that takes just to load and unload.
Okay, all right, thank you.
Any other board members have any questions? Okay, I would like to have a motion. Does anybody want to give me that motion?
I can make the motion for the, to approve the commercial vessel landing permit for Slappy Hour.
Okay, do I have a second?
I second.
Brian. So I have Luke who made it, Brian who seconded. Any further discussion? All right, Brian? Yes?
Yes.
Luke?
Yes.
Linda? Yes? Dave?
Yes.
Brad?
Yes.
Okay, you have your permit. And
Thank you so much.
you should probably contact Amy. I think you still have an insurance certificate to get in, and we still have to work out signs and schedules. So Amy, our town manager, secretary, will be in contact with you, or if you have any questions, please contact her.
Okay, great. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. You have your permit. All right, next item on the agenda, it's Patty Monahan on Brewster Beach.
Good evening. My name is Patty Monahan. I live on Clark Road here in Wolfeboro. Thank you for allowing me to speak this evening. I really appreciate it. On March 22nd, I sent an email to the Board of Selectmen regarding the decision to postpone a town-wide meeting to receive feedback on Wolfeboro's town beaches until July. This was in response to discussion in Warrant Article 35, Brewster Beach Petition Committee, during the Board of Selectmen meeting, Wednesday, March 17th. At that time, Ms. Murray stated, and I quote, "I would also like to see us run the beaches this year at full capacity, which will give us a better idea if we still have the issues on Clark Road," end quote. Just a reminder that Brewster Beach is open to the public while Cary and Albee beaches are resident only. My purpose in speaking before you all this evening is to explain why we can't wait until July and what the town of Wolfeboro risks losing if action is not taken immediately. I'm not here to debate rules or policies or procedures of the beaches, as that will be the job of the committee to be formed per that warrant article. The situations that occurred at Brewster Beach in 2020 will only be exacerbated at full capacity. The town meeting and creation of standardized rules across all beaches cannot wait until July. The original impetus for the creation of Warrant Article 35 was multifaceted. As a group of concerned residents, we agreed that limiting the Brewster Beach parking to residents would help to alleviate the multiple issues that we experienced in 2020, because most of the behavior we witnessed was coming from groups of out-of-town visitors here for the entire day, not venturing into our downtown area businesses. Individually, the issues that we experienced could easily have been managed, but with multiple incidents and on multiple occasions, a warrant article seemed to be our best option. Craig Gemmell, head of school at Brewster Academy, in his written statement on February 2nd regarding the Brewster Beach warrant article, and I quote, "It would be easy for Brewster to limit the use of its beach for the needs of our students and programs by not renewing the lease with the town." Craig requested, and I quote again, that key stakeholders spend more time exploring further alternatives, end quote. He referenced possible options of reopening the other two beaches to non-residents, deploying town resources to enforce parking, and supervision to, quote, "ensure appropriate behavior of beach goers," end quote. As I listened to Mr. Gemmel's statement and reread it in preparation for speaking with you this evening, I understood he was saying, and this is my interpretation, fix this issue or Brewster Academy will have no other alternative than to close Brewster Beach. While my neighbors and I, who are here tonight, are happy to hear Brewster Beach will be open this summer, I'm not confident that Brewster Academy won't close the beach again if they have any concern whatsoever for the safety of their students, which is completely understandable. If Wolfeboro businesses rely so heavily on beachgoers to patronize their restaurants, stores, etc., a potential Brewster Beach closure mid-summer would hurt their livelihood. Whereas the closure of the 2 town beaches last year to the public forced non-residents to Brewster Beach, those out-of-town beachgoers would have nowhere to go and will not be spending their money in Wolfeboro. Further, people from out of town that have been coming to Brewster Beach to enjoy a peaceful day at the beach aren't likely to return if the behavior we saw last year continues. There is no denying that the closure of 2 of our 3 town beaches to non-residents put an extra strain on capacity at Brewster Beach in 2020. I saw my neighbors who were walking into the beach get turned away because the beach was at capacity. How terrible is it that a tax-paying resident of Wolfeboro, living within walking distance of the beach, gets turned away from a beach they contribute to by maintaining by paying their property tax bill? Further, if overcrowding at all being carry beaches was the reason for the respective warrant articles passing in 2020, we will need to anticipate those 2 beaches will again be overcrowded if Brewster Beach does close early again. With more people vaccinated, I imagine we will see more demand put on our beaches this year than last year, of course. There are much more serious issues that occurred at Brewster Beach in 2020 besides overcrowding or illegal parking, and I wanted to share that with you all so you can understand the severity of the situation and the frustration that we felt. Drug and alcohol use, unsafe operation of motorized watercraft within 10 feet of a road swimming area, urinating and defecating in the woods, and general lack of respect for fellow beachgoers were just a few of the more serious concerns that prompted the creation of this warrant article. The issues began early in the season when jet skis and a boat were being unsafely operated close to the roped-in swimming area and caused a major accident. This incident did not stop jet ski usage throughout the summer, just outside the swimming area on the condo side of the beach. I don't know if the lone jet ski was a rental or owned by the operator, but it would continually pick up and drop off passengers right next to the rope swimming area, sometimes changing drivers frequently, who appeared to not have any experience operating a jet ski. This behavior continued every weekend throughout June and July. It was allowed, and we never saw Marine Patrol unless there was an actual accident. The previous summer in 2019, just so you're aware, the same behavior occurred. However, just one incident, and the jet ski ran ashore, and Marine Patrol did respond at that time. So it's not a new issue, however, much more often than the previous year. On July 4th, beachgoers who were told they could not barbecue on the beach decided it would be a good idea to do so in the parking lot. They dumped their ashes in the woods, which started a fire, and our Wolfeboro Fire and Rescue team responded. Trash piled up at the entrance to the beach after a day at the beach was a common sight. One neighbor shared a picture of this pile when she went to the beach with her toddler at 10:30 a.m. Empty liquor bottles and trash is frequently there to greet people going to the beach in the morning. Speaking of alcohol, we witnessed not only alcohol consumption, but drug use at our beach. Drug and alcohol use should have no place at our beach where children and families abound. Loud music. Perhaps to some, this seems like a silly item to address. However, for those of us trying to enjoy the beauty and peacefulness of Wolfeboro, this was intolerable. A professional level speaker was often set up the same group every Sunday. One particular such day, the woman next to us had politely asked the group to turn down the music. They said no. My husband asked one of the gentlemen walking by, again politely, to turn down the music. No was the answer as the men continued to walk by. Inside our home on multiple occasions, we could hear the loud music and the bass thumping from the beach. So much so that we had to turn our own music off because we couldn't hear it. Ladies and gentlemen, the Wolfeboro residents who signed the petition for Warrant Article 35 did so because Brewster Beach, which we all love and are blessed to have access to, became a source of great distress as we witnessed what was occurring. If you didn't use the beach on a Saturday or Sunday or not at all, you can't understand how terrible the situation became. These residents who I speak on behalf of this evening are Wolfeboro friends and neighbors, have for many years enjoyed spending time with their families at Brewster Beach. Each has fond memories of time spent with children, grandchildren, and friends over the years until 2020, when the situation became so untenable they opted to go to Albee or Cary beaches. On August 1st, there was no other option because Brewster Academy decided to close the beach 2 weeks earlier than previously announced. Why did Brewster Academy decide to do that? Again, kind of an assumption, but our assumption is because the issues had escalated to such terrible levels, there was nothing else that could be done. On the formation of the Wolfeboro Town Beach Committee, I strongly recommend that a cross-section of residents be represented along with officials from Brewster Academy. As a unified community, let's make our beaches safer and more enjoyable for everyone. This committee must include residents who live near and or use our beaches and have representation from each of them. Having people on the committee who can speak to their experiences, good and bad, and provide fair and equitable feedback is important to establishing reasonable rules. At the end of the day, reasonable rules in the interest in safety and comfort for everyone is the main goal. It goes without saying that Christine Collins should lead the committee. Speaking of Christine, I would like to take a moment to recognize her for her hard work and dedication to trying to make the beaches safer for everyone. I know that Christine has taken many calls from people regarding these issues since they started last year, and she's always taken the time to listen to concerns. So thank you, Christine. So my recommendations. We need to take immediate and collective action if the beach issues of 2020 are not to be repeated in 2021. We can't wait until July. This situation needs to be treated with a sense of urgency before we have another summer ruined by lack of enforceable rules at our beaches. My husband and I moved to Wolfeboro so that we can enjoy a better way of life. As residents and taxpayers, we all deserve to have the ability to enjoy that quality of life that we expect to find in Wolfeboro as much as our visitors. I have no doubt that if we put our collective suggestions together, the town of Wolfeboro will have a reasonable, enforceable set of rules and policies for all 3 beaches that will make the summer of 2021 the best one ever. I ask that community feedback be gathered quickly, either by meeting or survey. Simultaneously, the committee should be formed over the next week so that we are ready to review that feedback immediately and draft beach rules and policies which need to be decided upon no later than June 1st to give Parks and Recs ample time to prepare. One question before I walk away. Would it be okay if one of my neighbors spoke for a few seconds as well?
That's up to the board. Board members, does that sound okay?
Keep it quick.
Sure.
Well, thank you for your time and consideration. I greatly appreciate it.
And thank you for coming in and sending us a letter. That's important to us to get public feedback. So thank you for taking the time to do that for us.
Thank you. My pleasure.
Hi, everybody. I'll be quick, I promise. My name's Vanessa Peterson. I live on Clark Road, just a stone's throw from Patty. The only thing I wanted to add is we had just, as she described, seen what happened down at the beach last year. We want to be clear that we don't want to rob the town or the people in the school district from making the memories that they make at the beach. It's always in life, right? It's not the people that are following the rules that ruin it for everybody, it's the people that aren't, and we feel that that's what happened last year. And to say that, once we saw those signs go up that said the beach was closed, we all lost a lot of sleep, because as you can appreciate, we're concerned about our property values, that impact. I know we moved to Clark Road with my son and my husband for the purpose of Brewster Beach, so that's a major concern I know that I share with my neighbors, but point is, we read between some of the lines when those signs went up, and I think we're just very afraid that Brewster will just say, and rightfully so perhaps, that they don't want to deal with, all of the rigmarole down at the beach. So that's just expressing a little more passion for something to happen quick, because we're just so afraid that Brewster will take the privilege, if you will, away from us that I think we all thought could never go away. But it did last year, so thank you.
Thank you very much for coming in also and speaking to us. As soon as we received the letter from Patty, we started working on looking into the issues that she brought up. I received a email from Headmaster Craig Gemmel and asked me to come in and speak to him and have a conversation about the beach. And when I went at that time, the town had already started to do some problem solving. We had already, Christine, the chief of police, had already been down. It's either the chief or the captain, I'm not sure which one. And we're going to install no parking signs along Clark Road. They've already reached out to Marine Patrol to try to address the jet ski and boats coming too close and see if there's any way that we can address that with them. We're going to have the parking attendants, and they're going to extend the hours. Regular police patrol of the beaches and parking areas. I had a conversation with the chief before. He's going to be at full staff. They have a new electric bike that can get them to situations quicker. And so we are expecting to have more patrols of that beach. And I'll read what Craig asked for. We support those actions fully and would like to request the following additional item for consideration and discussion for this summer. Cameras installed at the beach, bathhouse, and parking areas to help deter any unwelcome activities. They're having an issue with the GPS that's sending everybody to the main entrance, and he'd like to see if we can get it so people who want to go to the beach get to the beach and not to the campus. He's asking for trash and recycling cans installed and emptied regularly to help address the issue of waste disposal that they saw last summer, and the continuation of the appropriate COVID policies to manage the number of guests on the beach at any one time, given that younger visitors will likely still be waiting access to vaccines. And he also says, as we look ahead, we would welcome a review of the lease that we set up in 2007 in order to support orientation programs for our students at the start of the school year. We would like to discuss closing Brewster Beach for Brewster Academy use either 1 or 2 weeks at the end of the summer. We are also looking forward to participating in the conversations about how all beaches in town will operate moving forward, with a strong hope that all beaches will have the same public access so as to avoid overcrowding at Brewster Beach. We are happy to designate representatives for these discussions. Wolfeboro is a summer resort community that welcomes visitors to our town. It is important that we provide a welcome experience for residents and visitors alike to benefit all. And I will kind of address this. I talked to him also about us having a forum in July. The reason I would like a forum in July is to get a sense of the beaches and how they're working now that we hopefully, I guess I better say hopefully, do not have all the COVID restrictions, and that there are a lot of people who want to give us comments. And to just have a committee of 4 or 5, we don't get that. And so we'd like a public forum to hear all the issues, come up with maybe 4, 5, 6 issues that keep on coming up, and then form a committee to work on the beach policies. The reason the 2 beaches are residents only and guests and taxpayers and their guests is because those were warrant articles. There were 2 last year that did that. The warrant article to close Brewster Beach to the same group of people got changed at the deliberative session. So we really don't have that same kind of input on Brewster Beach. So that is my comments. I'll let any other board members who would like to make a comment, and then the next item on the agenda is I think the town manager will give more specifics on what we're doing. Any board members? Brad.
Yeah, I just want to comment on the timing of the committee meetings and stuff. I think I agree. I think I'd like to have the meetings in go into July and stuff, as you stated, Linda, that we're going to get more representation from the people that might not be here in the spring, might not have come up yet. And this is also something we don't want to rush into. We want to make sure we take our time and come up with a proper solution to the issues here and stuff. We've got, there's 3 beaches. I'm sure we're going to talk about not just Brewster, but all 3 beaches during this whole thing. And we want to get it right the first time. We don't want to be back here in another year saying, oh gosh, we have issues with this and this and this. I'd rather see us take our time and get it right and approach it that way.
Any other member of the board have any comments or want to make any comments at this time? Okay, the next item on the agenda is Brewster Beach season update, and I don't know if that's from you or Christine.
So I can kick it off, Linda, and then I'll hand it over to Christine. You've hit on a lot of the subjects. We are going to have increased signage placed on Clark Road and Clipper Drive. Purpose for that signage is so that our police department can do a better job at being able to ticket and potentially remove vehicles if needed. We've actively had conversations with Marine Patrol to try and address the issue of boats and jet skiers approaching the swim lines. Additionally, I just had a conversation with Mr. Druin from the Wolfeboro Jet Ski Company relative to jet skis and being able to have a conversation with his patrons to educate them about staying away from those swim lines. He is going to actively do that. He also mentioned that they actually have a safety patrol in their business that goes out and monitors what their clients are doing with the equipment. So we're working through that. Christine is working through renewal of the parking attendants with extended hours. Chief Rondo and Captain Livy and I met. We discussed increased patrols at the beach, and as you alluded to, the electric bike will allow them to get there in a much more expedient fashion from the downtown area. Some outstanding items that we're working on finalizing. Cameras to be installed in the beach area. Christine has gotten me the information regarding cameras and a internet line so that our central dispatch can watch the activities happening at the beach and in the parking lot. And if there's questionable activities, they'll be able to communicate that immediately to officers to be able to get to the beach and take corrective measures. The GPS coordinates, they are on the mapping. They are incorrect. They do send people looking to go to Brewster Beach through the campus. We're working on trying to figure out how to get that corrected. Trash and recyclable containers, it is our intention to bring those back. And I think Christine can talk about the beach occupancy and any other items that I may have missed. Christine?
Thank you, Jim. Yes, like you said, we're handling all those things. As far as some of the items that were spoken about that happened. Some things happen when we didn't have attendants present. And I just encourage people, when you see that activity, your best option is to call the police. What was happening is they would call my office and I'd have a message for the next day. So sometimes if you do see that, you need to call the police. And then we're gonna do a better job at educating our staff, having them feel comfortable, communicating with the police, and just focusing on that as well. We've already made the calls for the cameras. That's not an issue. I think we've covered everything else. But I do encourage people, if there's things you're seeing, let us know. And I do want to be clear, sometimes, you know, in the parking lot, people are saying it's out-of-staters, and yes, they might have out-of-state plates, but they are taxpayers, so we can't just pinpoint that's who the culprits are or whatever. Sometimes it's an education thing, and sometimes people are just being jerks. So we're going to do a better job. The Marine Patrol, we have called them. I'm addressing a couple issues, but the easiest way to do it is if you see it, make the call. At least they have a call. in, they can kind of monitor that area. And we've had a good couple conversations already. We're working on some details of signage that can't be necessarily in the water, but on the beach itself. And that should help part of the problem. But I'm working to make contact with Brewster and have an agreement that we're all happy with. I think that's it.
Okay, thank you. Any board members, any other comments before we leave this topic? Seeing none, we'll move on. The next item on the agenda is the license agreement with Wolfeboro Jet Ski.
Hi there, everyone. Nate Truman, Wolfeboro Jet Ski. So last year was, I think, a wild year. We just talked about the beaches for everyone. I think this is our 11th year doing the jet ski rentals here in town. As Mr. Pinio stated last year, we noticed, similar to the comments made about the beaches, that this is just a different crowd, a wild crowd. Town was packed. I think with a lot of the restrictions in Massachusetts, you had a lot of people from Massachusetts coming up and getting out, exploring kind of locally, getting out in the fresh air. And I think a lot of that you saw at Brewster Beach. We certainly saw some of that. Marine Patrol, I know, was underfunded last year. They did not have enough officers on the lake. We ended up buying 2 patrol boats to do kind of our own patrol. I did get one call about a jet skier customer that was dropping people off and on at Brewster Beach. I personally went and retrieved them in one of our patrol boats. But yeah, no, we've made a lot of policy changes. We used to give out temporary boaters licenses to 80% of our renters for 9 years. That was no issue. Last year, about halfway through the season, we switched, and about 85% of our renters, we made them get permanent boaters licenses. They had to take a 2-hour course, and we've really kind of moved to that model. It's been much easier for our business. We have better customers, less incidents, and more educated, safe boaters out on the lake. We've changed our booking system to a complete online booking system that holds the renter's credit cards. We make it clear. Pretty much the only thing we've been able to do that seems to work system-wide is we basically tell customers if we hear of bad behavior, if there's any damage, it's sort of a no questions asked policy. We hit their credit card, which is saved on file. So we've gone away from cash customers, and now have a system that allows us to do that. That's been working really well. So anyway, that's what I have to say.
Well, thank you very much. I was there when you first started down there, and I stop in every year, and it has been a real good business here in town and for our residents and our visitors, and you've grown up in the time.
Thank you for your support.
Yeah, and thank you for helping us patrol the jet skis. That's important, and we appreciate that. Board members? Yep, Brian?
Linda, I just have one question. Sure. Is there any way that you have your jet skis marked so that they can easily be identified?
Yeah, so all of our jet skis, we buy uniform jet skis. So last year, it was very clear which ones were rental jet skis. Mm-hmm. When there is an issue on a jet ski, many people think that it's a renter.
That's right. And I don't want you to be singled out. It would be awful for your company to be singled out. So I was just wondering if there's any way you think by maybe installing a flag on the back or something that is really, really recognizable, so people will see a jet ski and they'll know that it's not yours.
It's a great idea. This year I ordered all the same color, all the same seats. I don't know where they are. I'm hoping they come in time. But that's a great idea, and I have no issues with putting a special, a red thing or a rental thing, or just a rent me sign on them. It'd be great for me, I think great for other people too. So that's a great idea. I'd be happy to do it.
I just need you to state your name for the record so our recording secretary knows who you are.
Yes, Nate Druin.
Thank you. All right. Any other board members have any questions about this permit or this license agreement? Hearing none, can I have a motion?
I move to approve a license agreement with Wolfeboro Jet Ski from May 15th to September 15th, 2021, contingent upon receival of the license fee of $1,000.
Do I have a second?
Second.
Okay, I had a motion by Brian and a second by Dave. Is there any further discussion? Hearing none. Brian?
Yes.
Luke?
Yes.
Linda's yes. Dave?
Yes.
Brad?
Yes.
You have your agreement. Thank you.
Thanks, Nate.
Okay, the next item on the agenda was meant to be on the May 5th agenda. That is the Wolfeboro Bay and Back Bay Watershed Management. And I'm going to make a motion that we table it. Can I have a second?
Second.
I'll take Luke for the second. Linda made the motion, Luke second, and Brian?
Yes.
Luke?
Yes.
Linda's yes.
Yes.
Dave? Brad?
Yes.
Okay. We're moving on. The next item on the agenda is the proposed increase for building permit fees.
Yeah, Madam Chairman, I'll kick this off.
Okay.
We have in front of us this evening Steve Paquin, our code enforcement officer, teamed with Tavis Austin, our town planner. One of the things that we tasked Steve with when we hired him was to evaluate our fees and to look at where we should be going in the future. The thought process behind this is really multifaceted. It takes and pushes some of the expenses associated with this department onto the users rather than the taxpayers. I'm not going to go into detail. I believe that's what Steve and Tavis are here about. The thought process on this is we have a discussion tonight. If you have further questions that you would like Steve and Tavis to answer, we will come back at the following meeting and look at those, have answers for those questions. And if we so desire to move forward with the fees, that would be the second meeting in May for a June 1st implementation. With that, I'll hand it over to Steve. I believe he's got a PowerPoint, which I believe you have in front of you as well. Steve?
Thank you, Jim. Madam Chairman, members of the board, thank you for hearing me tonight. I do have a hard copy of the PowerPoint, if that would be easier for you. I can pass that out if you'd like.
Thanks. Thanks, Steve.
I have my copy.
So the first page, just a little synopsis. Wolfeboro has not increased their building permit fees in the last 15 years. As everyone knows, budgets go up, salaries will go up, but the fees never change. A lot of places don't know that there's actually a state statute that allows building departments to fund their department off the building fees that are collected. And that is there for a reason. It's meant to make the applicant, the person who's building the project, paid for the services of the building inspector, not to have the taxpayers foot the bill for somebody that wants to do their project. So that's what this PowerPoint is going to show, that we can move forward in doing that. And yes, the numbers are probably going to look a little scary, but they will make sense when we're done with this. So the last one is just, let's stop passing the town the fees and the cost of doing projects in town to all the taxpayers and make the person who's doing the project pay for their share. Second slide. The second slide in the presentation is a simple table comparing current fees to proposed fees. Far right-hand corner, or far right-hand column, there's a percentage of the change. That does look like a drastic number, 46% for residential and 48% for commercial. Believe it or not, that is the average change in the cost of running the building department over the last 15 years. That comes in at 43%. So I am right on target for what has increased over the last 15 years. The bottom of this chart, you'll see that the fees are above for funding the building department. The current budget for the building department is $124,869.28. If we increase the fees by the 46% and the 48% through all the building fees, I can take $99,895 right off the taxpayer's base. That will be paid for by the applicants coming in to do their projects. So automatic savings for the taxpayers in the building department budget. Code enforcement, there's left in there for $24,000. That's the zoning enforcement. If people have a complaint about signs or their neighbor's property or something that's going on in town, every taxpayer has the right to use that to put in a complaint or to try to solve an issue within their neighborhoods. So that should be funded by everybody in town because they all have a chance to use that. So that's what those numbers at the bottom of that chart represent. Next slide. So RSA 155A:2(3). This is the state statute that sets the building department's permission to establish the fees where necessary to fund the department. This is not something that I'm trying to make up. It's something that, believe it or not, there's not many towns in the state of New Hampshire that do this. There's a lot of towns that have brought it forward, and unfortunately it stalls where we are right now, in front of the Selectmen. Because yes, to do it, the numbers do increase, and it does seem like a big number. But as we move on, I'll show you that it's really not a big number. Fees versus project cost. 2020, the fees received was $104,002.81. Construction cost in Wolfeboro in 2020, $70,851,586.40. That's 0.15% of the construction cost that was brought in by permit fees. The national average is 0.5% to 2% of construction cost. Wolfeboro is way below that national average right now, putting a huge burden for that construction cost on the taxpayers of Wolfeboro. So we're going to try to resolve that. The next chart is the one probably got everybody a little riled up. This is a comparison to some of the neighboring towns on Lake Winnipesaukee. Yes, the percent change that I'm talking about is drastic. I will agree with that. But again, like I said, most towns are not utilizing the RSA to the point where they can to recoup those costs. So yes, numbers are down because taxpayers are footing the bill. It doesn't have to be that way. Total permit fees for a 3,500 square foot house. About average for construction right now. They're actually starting to downsize because construction costs are going up. People are realizing they don't want the real big mansions, although we still have them going on. The permit fee for that house, $3,500 house, is $1,625. Construction cost right now, granted COVID has knocked that way out of the park, but you're probably talking about a $400,000 house in construction cost. So again, the percentage of that fee is way down from where it really could be. But I'm not trying to raise the envelope so high that this is not possible to do. Some of the missing costs that building permits don't cover and taxpayers are footing the base for. The number of inspections that I have to do, or any inspector has to do in construction. 2020, we had almost 900 permits go out. If I did the calculation and everybody called for the inspections they're required to call for, and I did those, that would have equaled 1,960 inspections. Each inspection, roughly an hour between the inspection and the travel time to and from. 2,080 hours in a work year. Doesn't leave me a lot of time to do the plan review, the permit review, the code enforcement, the phone calls that come in, the emails that need to be answered, and the people that walk in off the street. So there's not a lot of time to do everything that needs to be done. Wolfeboro, and even the neighboring towns around the lake, everybody in New Hampshire right now, there is a massive building boom going on. The real estate market is hurting. There's not a lot of inventory. As you're driving around town, you're probably seeing a lot of lots that all of a sudden have orange and blue and pink flags on them. Lots are selling. Contractors are buying vacant lots and they're building because the houses are going to sell. That's the market we're in. And that's happening everywhere. It's not just Wolfeboro. I have 18 single-family homes currently open right now. That doesn't seem like a lot, but the way we break our permits up, I have a couple of different categories. I have almost 26 open permits for house additions. These are not small additions. These are 5,000, 6,000 square foot additions. They're like a single-family home, but they're not calculated as a single-family home because the home already exists. So in reality, I'm up in the 30s for very large projects, and that's not slowing down. So there's other permits that go on top of that. Right now, I'm roughly averaging 100 permits per month. That's 1,200 permits for the year. That is going to be a record for Wolfeboro if it continues at this pace. So that is an astronomical amount of permits. That relates to an astronomical number of inspections. So it's all part of the market that we're in right now. Town cost of permits. At the basic level, in 2015, the code enforcement officer, the position that I'm holding right now, is making $47,000 a year. 15 years later, that increased to $67,558, an increase of 43%. I'm looking for the permits to go up to 46%, 48%. It covers the cost of the increase in the last 15 years, funds the department without having to put the whole burden on the taxpayer. What's not recorded in here is there's still a benefit package, vehicle maintenance, all of that's put on the taxpayers. There's no reason for that. Your average home, your average single-family home by law in the building code book, I'm required to do 10 inspections. I'm not allowed to waive them off. Contractors are required to call for them, and if I don't hear from that contractor, I call them, I go out and I do the inspections. That's my job. I'm obligated by law to do that. The average inspection is a half an hour. Travel time, there's no easy way to get around the lakes in Wolfeboro. I find myself in the car quite a bit. So average time, I'm looking at an hour to do one inspection. I have to do 10 just on the single family homes. Other inspections come in. Plan review. A lot of towns, bigger towns, they'll actually send the plans out. They don't have somebody that's capable of doing a plan review for code review. We do those in-house. I do them, the fire department does them with me. Average for a single family is about an hour. I've had a couple of homes in town that have gone well into 3-4 hours because they're monsters. There's construction types that we don't really see. There's a lot of houses in town, believe it or not, that are all held up by steel columns and beams. That's unheard of, but they're here. So it takes a little bit longer. Permit reviews, Terry does a lot of that. She takes them in, she records them, she gets them going. Tavis is involved in looking at plan reviews for shoreline, making sure they meet all the shoreline requirements that we have. Anything that needs to go to the boards, he's reviewing them as well, so his time is involved in that. I have time in that to make sure that they're complete applications before I do permit them. With all of that said, the way the fees are right now, your average taxpayer is covering 36% of every house that's being built, every project that's going on. So that's all of you, if you're not doing a project, you're paying for a project that I may be doing. And there's no reason for that to happen. There's ways around it with the state law in raising the fees that's not going to break somebody's bank to do a small project. The last one, proposed fees. Again, I'm looking to go up 46%, slightly higher than what the average rate was over the last 15 years for running the department. 48% on commercial. They're a bigger project, they take a little bit more time. Make the applicants, not the taxpayers, responsible for the cost of running my department, having me go out to make sure their houses are safe. Reduce the taxpayer's burden on covering those costs. That's what this is all about. They look like big numbers, but they're really not. I'm still going to be under 50%, half a percentage for construction costs at the fees that I'm proposing. So that's it in a handbag. If there's any questions, I'll be more than happy to try to answer them.
On your price comparison for the 3,500 square foot home, the 1625, is that is that the new proposal or is that the existing cost?
That's the new proposal.
That's what I assumed from looking at the numbers on the other page. I'd like to pass out something. I just started doing a little bit of research.
Thank you.
Thank you, Brian.
Thanks, Brian.
Now bear with me because I just started getting some information and I haven't filled in all the boxes. So what I looked at was the number of permits that we do a year compared to some of the other towns. I'm awaiting some calls from others. My understanding is that part of the increase in the permits is also to hire a part-time or more help for the code enforcement officer. So Belmont in 2020 had 25 new single-family homes. They have 13 on the books now and more coming in that they haven't recorded. Their code enforcement officer makes $66,000, so that's great. And their permit cost is $600 per house based on your numbers. Guilford had 23 permits for single family in 2020, 31 already on the books for this year. They have a new code enforcement officer. He doesn't have your experience. So they get a bargain with him. Their inspection is $625. Alton, here we go with Alton. A whopping 53 single-family homes last year. They had 2 duplexes built. They had 78 additions. They had 885 additional inspections. So their inspections ended up being well over 900. Their cost is $1,010, which is about in line with what ours is now. An additional thing is that their code enforcement officer, his name is John Dever, great guy. He's also the health officer in charge of the zoning and the building inspector. So he's Superman. I don't know how he manages to do it. I asked him if they give him 3 salaries. Then Wolfeboro, we had 18 houses last year, or is that 18 open? How many did we actually have last year for single-family homes?
Tavis is opening the program right now, so I can verify that number, but 18 is way low.
Okay, and 20 is what you have now for 2021?
I currently have 18 open homes currently this year, permitted since January.
Yep.
And I have another 27 additions that are basically single-family homes.
Well, they call their additions the same thing. An Alton addition, yeah, an Alton addition is a Wolfeboro addition. And your pay is right in line with everybody else. You're very high qualified. Hear great things about you. So that all seems to work. But my question is, why are our permits going to have to be almost 3 times other neighboring towns that are in the same situation as us, or 2.5 times, when they do the same amount of work, have the same amount of work to do? And again, when I was speaking to somebody, I actually said, yeah, we're $24,000 negative. And they said, wow, you guys are doing great. And I said, really? And they said, yeah, most towns don't get near that. He said, what? I said, well, for comparison, a single-family 3,500 square foot house in our town is about $1,100. And they said, wow, that's that is much more than our town. That's why you are so much closer to having a break even between cost of permits and fees collected. So I'm all for the taxpayers not paying, but we want to make sure that we have efficiency in the town. We want to make sure that we should have the same metrics as other towns.
So again, like I said, and I think I can answer your question, I understand I am increasing, but I also mentioned that we are going to be one of the first towns in the state of New Hampshire to utilize the RSA that allows me to set the fees to take the burden of the permits off of the taxpayer, to pay for the salary and the funding of the building department. I'm not going to say that I'm better than anybody else that's out there. These are John Dever has gone to the town of Alton and tried to increase his fees every single year. John's a great friend of mine. So he fails every time in front of the select board because the numbers are astronomical.
So a question is, we're $24,000 down. After you equalize our permit costs and then hire another part-time employee, will we be breaking even, making money, or still be negative?
We'll be pretty much breaking even on running the department.
And if I may, the other thing that needs to be stated, just so we're clear, we still have to go through the budget process in order to get a part-time person.
Correct.
Okay.
These revenues that will be established from this department will go to the general fund and help our bottom line at the end of the day. I think that from what I've observed, Steve probably does the most thorough inspection that I've seen of a lot of building inspectors. And you know what? Some of the things that he's doing is actually of benefit to the builder, to the homeowner. He's protecting the investment that they're making in their home and our property. So I know that the numbers are a big jump, but I just want you to know that we still have to go through a process to get to a part-time person, if that even becomes reality.
Does anybody have any objection to me reaching out to other towns and adding and completing this information?
I have no issue in somebody doing homework, no.
Okay.
Dave?
I'll just make a couple of comments on your new fee schedule. Okay, as probably a lot of you know, I'm the building inspector for the town of Freedom, which is a pretty small town. All of your fees and schedules for your new fees are fees that I already have. We base all of our permits on square footage at 35 cents. All of our electrical permits, plumbing, gas, all of those are the same, pretty much. The only one that I see here that I'm not particularly in favor of, and that's the alternative energy solar permit. We were trying to go to reduce carbon footprint, if you will, to jump to $100. It's not a lot of money for what people have to pay for a solar installation, but we charge $30. Now, I'm part-time, 1.5 days a week approximately. I make enough on my permit fees, and I know it's a smaller scale. We only have 8 new houses right now, so we're not up with you guys yet. But I take in enough permit fees to pay for myself and the zoning official, who is separate from me. We work together, same as you guys do. But I make enough money to cover his salary and mine, in all my expenses because I get paid by the mile instead of having a town car. So I don't have any problems at all personally with increasing the numbers because they're certainly in line with a small town like I work at. The only one I don't like is the alternative energy. I would like to see you keep it at $25 or $30 maybe. But other than that, all these fees are pretty much in line with what I do on a weekly basis. So I don't have any problem at all with increasing the fees, and I agree, it's been 15 years. Some of these other towns, and you'll find it, Brian, as you look around at these other towns, they're going to be up and down because a lot of these other towns haven't done anything with their permit fees for many years. And it's going to, as Steve said, you're going to find some differences. And every town has a cycle that goes up and goes down and comes up and comes down. But personally, I don't have any problem other than the solar one as far as fee schedules because they match up with just about exactly what I have in a very small town. And I have no complaints from contractors coming in to take out their permits for gas, electric, or whatever, even the building permits. You know, an average garage is almost $500 for the permit. And I make maybe 5 stops on one of those, sometimes only 4. So, you know, you're going to have the same situation that I have as far as permitting. I don't think you're going to have contractors balk at any of these prices. Because in some other towns, they're charging a lot more. Go to Dover or Rochester or someplace. And that, granted, they are bigger. Yes, but the guys that are coming up here to do work, Eastern Propane or any of those people, they're used to paying fees higher than these. So
I have a project going on Springfield Point Road. It is a monster house. Probably going to be somewhere in the realm of $13 million. And when the contractor came in to get the permit fee, I told him, or to get the permit, I told him it was $2,000. He literally stopped writing the check and said, "Are you sure you're not missing a zero?" I confirmed it, and he said, "That's crazy. This is every day a $20,000 permit," and he was ready to pay it. So
same thing.
I'm not going crazy. I'm covering the cost, and I'm still way under the national average, and so is the state of New Hampshire, and that's something that we've been fighting. You guys may not know, I'm vice president of New Hampshire Building Officials. This is something that we're fighting across the state. Our departments have been underutilized and under-respected in the state for many, many years, and we've been fighting for a long time to get that notoriety and taking the burden off of the taxpayers. That's what we try to do. Yeah, we make everything safe for the people that are going to be in the buildings, but there's no reason why the average taxpayer who's not doing the project has to foot the bill, and the means are there. So yes, it's a big number. I will agree with it. They're really not when you look at the overall end. But yes, 46% in 1 year, it sounds like a lot, but it really isn't in the big picture.
I've got Luke, and then I'm going to go to Brad. Luke?
Thank you, Steve. No, this is great. I only have one comment, and it's more, maybe it's a question and a comment. Where does the impact fee that people have to pay come into? Who performs that, and where does that money go, and who oversees that? So
there is, through my department, if you're building a new home, not rebuilding, but just building new from the ground up, there's roughly a $4,100 impact fee. It's my understanding that that impact fee goes to the school system and no place else. If you're hooking up, if you're buying a lot or you're building a house on a lot that is connected to water and sewer, you are $16,000 out of pocket before you even put the shovel in the ground. It's $6,000 for water and $6,000 for sewer. So there's an impact fee of $16,000 in the town of Wolfeboro if you're utilizing the utilities.
So just to follow up on that, this is my only, I'm just throwing this out as an idea. When you're talking about homes that are, less than 3,500 square feet, like people are coming here to obviously either have kids, raise a family, like small homes, normal homes. That's a burden. But, the 16,000 plus the potential, $1,600, $1,700. And I don't know if we can slide the scale to make those that are building, obviously if you're building I'm not saying that we should be charging people that are building 20,000 square foot houses more, but we want to encourage, we have a housing issue in Wolfeboro as it is. We certainly have an affordable housing issue in Wolfeboro as it is. I just don't want to price those that are trying to come here and raise families and run businesses and be able to live in town and work in town out of that system. So that's just a concern. And I don't know how that plays into things.
If I might, I'm going to use that as a segue. The town has already accepted the $6,000 water connection fee as the fee to cover the services that are rendered under that contract, if you will. The town has already accepted the $6,000 sewer connection fee as covering the services basically at cost. The impact fee is determined by the planning board through that statutory process to cover the school bill. The only one that isn't paying its cost on the same mechanism are the building permit fees. And just to add to that, most people when they look at this say, well, you're raising the fees because you want to increase the budget. But this isn't happening. This is just proposing essentially a net zero budget. It's just how it's funded. So really the question for the board to consider is, do you feel it is still appropriate for the general taxpayer to subsidize building permit fees, or if it more appropriately perhaps should be a pay-to-play system? So I don't doubt in the, maybe it's time to question the 6,000 and the 6,000 and the 4,100. Maybe there's some, the planning board just, talking with Mr. Mayberry about revising how the impact fees are collected, what percentage is appropriate. Is 4,185 still the appropriate number? Question mark.
Not to interrupt you, but if I'm correct, if I'm building a 10,000 square foot house, or let's just say a 2,000 square foot house or a 10,000 square foot house, that impact fee is the same, correct?
Correct, but that's only for new single family.
So, a question.
Well, I have Brad over here next.
All right. Yeah, thanks, Travis. I was going to make that comment that these fees and everything going in here that we're talking about tonight aren't about an increase in the budget. They're about, just like as you just said, it's funding what we already have. They're taking the burden off the taxpayer. I had one question for either one of you guys. On your page here for the fees versus project cost for 2020, you have $104,002.81 fees received. Were those from building permit fees, or those inspection fees, or
building permit fees?
Building permit fees.
Permit fees, okay. Because then back on the previous page, down at the bottom, fees, where it says fees above are based on funding the code's budget as follows and all that stuff. Building inspections, you have $99,895 in there. In this figure, is that what you're getting there currently, or?
That was just going back and doing a comparison for the permits pulled or the permit fees received in 2020. So if I had the new fee schedule in 2020 and we did the same permits that we did, in permit fees I would have been able to cover 80% of the operating budget for the building department.
Yeah.
And that's what that breakdown is. That 99,000 is 80% of the 124,000.
Okay, gotcha.
And the other interesting thing to play with in the numbers is the code budget we used is literally the code enforcement budget. It doesn't contemplate the benefits package. It doesn't,
Right.
You can go to that level if you'd like to find out what is the true hourly cost of, what's the true hourly cost of planning and development director, what's the true hourly cost of the building inspector, true hourly cost of the administrative position, and then break out a percentage, and then look at the total budgetary impact of the percentage. The point is, however you do the math, currently almost 40% of the cost of the department is being borne by taxpayers. So.
Yep. No, it's good. That answered my question. Thank you.
And Luke, just if I can, to answer your question, or one of your concerns, all of these fees can be adjusted. I have it broken out in here, under 4,000 square feet, over 4,000 square feet. Obviously, we can add another category, but it doesn't matter if the home is 18,000 square feet or 600 square feet. I still have to do the same inspections.
And by the same token, 600 square feet or 3,000 square feet is still paying the 16,000.
Well, that's a question that I have. Is there any way that you could, for 2020 and 2021, break down for us and bring us a document that shows how many new homes had the impact, well, we all know they had the impact fee. How many had a water hookup, a sewer hookup, and how many didn't? I have seen houses go up on Pleasant Street. There are houses that are going up in my neighborhood that have water but not sewer. So I would be curious to see just how many houses of, let's say, the 50 houses that are being built in the last 2 years, how many, what fees people had to pay. Are the majority of people not having to pay water and sewer hookup because most of the houses are built out of the system? It would just be good information.
We could probably find the information. I don't know what answer it provides.
It just, you brought up a question comparing other fees to this fee. So now I'd like to see what a person building a house out in North Wolfeboro, how much they're getting hit compared to somebody who's building on Pleasant Street.
I have a few comments. First of all, about the water and sewer hookup fees. That is calculated on those enterprise funds and for the future capacity as you add homes. So it has its own formula. This wasn't plucked out of the air. I think we must have put those in, and they may be ready to be upgraded too, probably 10 years ago. And we know why we did that. So those are different from what we're talking about here. We're talking about inspection fees. I agree with Dave Sanical. I don't like the solar and that going up. Part of our master plan is to bring the amount, increase our alternate and green energy. So I think that's one place we could give a little, and I would like that. And I also agree with the town manager. If we do these fees, it's because we're going to cover the costs here. To hire somebody else has to go through that budget process. If it isn't all covering your fees, it then goes into the general fund and therefore offsets something else. And, I can't tell now whether this is more important or some other employee is important. So I understand what you're saying here. I'm sure to the taxpayer, they'd like to not have to cover this cost.
And to that end, the fees that are in here right now, if you take a net zero budget moving forward and the building slows, there's not 21 houses, it's 18 houses. The part-time person doesn't have to be a part-time regular employee. It could be as needed. If it's a busy boom year, then what the permit fee collection mechanism is looking at here is about, what do we figure, 20 hours a week at $20 an hour as needed. So there's $10,000 of cushion, if you will. So is it minus 24? Probably, or better. Because in the slower year, that person isn't being funded. There isn't additional vehicles. There isn't, vehicle time, gas, travel, et cetera. There's 10,000 that can offset other things.
But I'm still saying I can't make that decision for what's coming up in the 2022 budget.
Correct.
I don't know if there's a department that needs it more. I will say we are not a town that lets our employees have much downtime. And, I can say right now that the Public Works in 14 years hasn't added another employee. So that's my only concern out of it. I'm not in any way, I want to go through that budget process. If we decide to do this, then that money goes into the general fund. We're covering you, and then we can look at what else might be needed. Yeah. That's my only real concern in this.
And understanding more dialogue will happen to that end. The part-time person isn't to create downtime, it's to provide response time. Currently, when somebody calls in, they're told we need a 24-hour in advance so that we can get things together, figure out how Steve isn't going from one end of the town to the other and then back out. I mean, anyone that goes to North Wakefield Road and then back twice in a day.
And good. I expect to hear that from you when we look at the 2022 budget. That's what I'm saying. That's that process.
And to that end, if it doesn't pencil, we can revise it down. I don't think the statute allows you to overreach.
Well, so now you're telling me something else. You're telling me now that if I do that, I'm signing up for this other person or I'm charging too much. I think it said, and it was at the bottom of, let's see, it was RSA. Let me figure out where I read it. I think it was in this packet. It says here, RSA 155-A:9, a municipality may establish fees to defray the cost of administration, implementation, enforcement of the state building code, or any local amendment. Such fees shall be general use of the municipality having responsibility over the local enforcement. So general use of the municipality. So that's where I was making my statement from. So from a statute you gave me. So, and again, I'll see you during the budget season and you can give me that argument and we can see. Is there any other member who'd like any specific information? If I understand you, Jim, tonight is also to get any information that we need as a board.
Yeah, so if the board has any further questions, please email me the questions. I'll get it to the staff so that they can have that provided for you at the next board meeting. We'll discuss it at that board meeting, and then the following board meeting, we would like to have a public hearing to discuss the implementation of the fee schedule, and we'll take the feedback that we received tonight and run with it. Just questions, please get them to me and I'll get them to the staff. Thank you.
Okay, board members, fine, we ready to move on? Thank you very much for your presentation and the information you provided. Okay. Next item, emergency operations plan.
Good evening.
Want to just give your name?
I'm sorry.
I know everybody should know you, but that would be
Tom
nice.
Zotti, Acting Fire Chief, Emergency Management Director. What you have before you is our third-year concurrence of the town's emergency plan. The plan itself is intended to be updated every 5 years with an annual staff review, if you want to call it that, with any subsequent changes proposed. The handful of changes we proposed are really, it could probably come under the heading of bookkeeping. Some references to staff members at the state level have changed, some local companies have changed names and so forth, and we've called that out on the notes page behind the signature page. Probably the primary thing we are asking for tonight is your formal adoption of the document we've attached as a, quote, concept of operations. And what that is a paper we've developed in the last few months, intended essentially as a guide for yourselves, town staff, to review and provide some guidance on what situations might warrant some level of activation of the town's emergency operations center, and provide guidance on how to do that should that need arise. As I'm sure you're aware, the plan itself is approximately 200 pages long. This is intended as a much briefer, perhaps more user-friendly document, again, for town staff to have available to refer to if a situation arises that raises the question of whether we should trigger some level of response of the town's emergency operations personnel. That's essentially it. I'd be happy to answer any questions. This was brought up at our last monthly meeting of the Local Emergency Operations Committee, and the consensus was to move forward with the request tonight. I will say that having been involved, and many of you have at some level for the past 12 to 14 months, I think we've demonstrated that the plan is functional and it works. We can tier or level our response to meet the challenge in front of us. And I think it's proven beneficial. And again, I think the changes primarily that we're proposing are more or less bookkeeping, proper contact numbers and that sort of thing.
Board members, anybody have any questions, concerns? Hearing none, can I have a motion?
I'll move to authorize the town manager and the chairman of the Board of Selectmen to sign signature page of the annual review of the emergency operations plan and to adopt as an annex the concept of operations document.
I'll second that.
Okay, I have a motion by Dave Senical, a second by Brad Harriman. Any further discussion? Hearing none. Brian?
Yes.
Luke?
Yes.
Linda's yes. Dave?
Yes.
Brad?
Yes.
Okay.
Thank you, Tom.
And as an aside, I'd just point out we were able to submit a request today. If you're familiar, the town applied for a 75%, 25% reimbursement for a number of things that we did during the peak of COVID locally. We're now eligible to get that other 25% reimbursed, and we pulled the trigger on that today.
Good.
And there's some other equipment that was recently purchased to, among other things in this building, the electrostatic sprayers to disinfect rooms and equipment, vehicles and so forth. And we learned recently that those will be eligible for reimbursement as well. So I'm in the process of submitting that. So hopefully we'll reimburse some of those costs here very shortly.
Well, thanks for doing that.
Thank you.
Will help us all out.
Madam Chairperson, I'd also just like to thank the acting chief and Chief Rondo. They worked together to get this concept of operations implemented, and it's a great example of taking a document that we've reviewed, putting it into practice, and recognizing a shortcoming and making that living document better for the next time going around. So I'd like to thank both Chief Zotti and Chief Rondo for making that happen. Thanks, guys.
Thanks.
And thank you from the board, too. Okay. Next item on the agenda is the finance report, March actual versus budget.
Good evening. This is Kathy Carpentier, Finance Director. I'm here to report that we're 3 months or 25% through 2021. The general fund is currently 28.8% spent, but some of that is encumbered funds, so we're right on target. Water fund is about 23%, electric is about 33%, sewer is 77%, but a big piece of that is because the wastewater treatment plant is fully encumbered, and Pop Whalen is about 38%. The general revenue fund, the general fund revenues are at 7%, but that's primarily low because we do the tax billing twice a year. So you won't see that level out till after the July billing of property taxes. The fund revenues for water is 15%. Again, you'll see that probably spike up when people start watering their lawns and that type of thing. Municipal electric is at 25%, sewer fund is at 17%, and Pop Whalen is at 30%. I do not see any items of significance that are alarming at this point. I do want to make note that we will be still making some entries, moving some things between fiscal 20 and 21 next week when the auditors are here. I'd be more than happy to entertain any questions you may have.
Board member, anybody have any questions? I want to thank Kathy for meeting with me today. I had a few items that I wanted to get clarified, and she did that, and I want to thank her for the time she spent with me, and I'm sure if any other board members have any questions or concerns, she'd be glad to see them or help you understand something in the budget. All right.
I'd be more than
Yep. All right, we're moving on. The next item is the Friends of the Libby Museum letter dated 4/12/2021. I can kind of start off on this, and then the town manager may have some more information. What I did for the board, I went back and I put in sequence all the documents that we have had from the Friends of the Libby Museum, and also the opinion of Mark Puffer in January. I kind of highlighted the subcommittee meetings that we had and things that we talked about, just so I also included the minutes from any meeting we had, and I found it helpful to me to kind of see the pattern. This started in December with the MOU and moved forward. I don't know if Mr. Pinio wants to say anything.
So we worked with the Friends of the Libby, as Linda had stated, and the initial MOU, there was some language issues which Attorney Puffer had. We got that straightened out. And then we had some more discussions, and it boiled down to the fact that we felt we needed to sit down with the Friends of the Libby Museum and have a conversation. We did that with Mr. Wilkins, Mr. Goodwin, Mr. Senecal, Ms. Murray, and myself. We got to a point where we thought we had an agreement. We came forward to the next meeting. In that meeting, there was a change in the language. That change asked for $300,000 to be put in over the next 2 years, which, if I believe you all were at that meeting, it frankly took us a little bit by surprise. We weren't expecting that. The board had already approved putting $100,000 into the 2021 CIP process, which will be taking under here shortly. And then we tried to get some dates where we could sit down and try to discuss that, because we didn't feel it was good to negotiate that out in public. And we just couldn't get a time that worked for everybody to meet. And now we have the letter in front of us, dated April 12th. And I still have some concerns, because I don't think it was what we agreed to. With that said, I'll hand it back to the board for discussion and go from there.
Okay, and what I would like is see if each board member would state whether you agree with the Friends of the Libby Museum request that a warrant article be placed on the 2022 warrant to fund the Libby Museum Capital Reserve Account, $300,000 in 2022 and $300,000 in 223. And it would be nice to hear your reasoning and your analysis and see where we are and our feelings. And I get to start off with you, Brad, because you probably have the most information, and we'll work our way around and see where we all are. And we have until Wednesday, May 12th to respond to them. If we aren't willing to do this, they're not willing to fundraise. So we need to decide where we want to go. Brad, I'll hand it over to you.
Yeah, unfortunately, I wasn't able to make that meeting where they had the last meeting, which they had discussion and developed this letter. So when I saw this come through on the email, I think when this email to town, they copied me on it. I was rather surprised. I personally do not agree with that paragraph asking for $300,000 in each of the next 2 years to be put in. I think our discussions that we have had at our meetings, as when we've met as trustees of the Libby, were that we're in favor of the project moving forward. I think we've been talking about having the board reconsider getting behind the $2.9 million project. And we had many discussions about not having dollar amounts put in there and going to the percentages instead of the 30%, 70%, which works out to those numbers. Because the board, our board here, depending on when this gets through, the CIP process, stuff like that, we could either choose to put a little bit in each year, like we talked about 100,000 for next year, and we might put the bulk of it in that last year that we're going to present the warrant article, because our bond rates might be so low that it would make sense to do it that way, rather than take the taxpayer money, $200,000 or $300,000 each of the years, and put it away into the kitty there. And I think we should keep that option open on our end. I think that would be our choice. That's the way I would feel leaning towards on my decision making on this. And I'll kind of leave it at that right now, I guess, to move forward with other discussion here with other folks.
Thanks, Brad. Dave?
Yeah, I'm finding this 900,000 thing to be not what we originally started out at. I don't believe that was the number that we had in mind. I think Brad's right, the 70-30 split was what we pretty much agreed on, and the numbers may be the same. But for us to say today that we're going to put in 900,000, I think that's a little premature from my perspective anyway.
Okay. Luke?
Yeah, I agree with both Brad and Dave. For me, I don't think, and I understand why they want this, but I don't think they need this in order to go. I don't think they need a number like that in order to go out and fundraise. I mean, in times past, the commitment is the commitment, whether it's a percentage or a dollar number, and I feel like their contributors are going to know that if they step up and donate the $2 million or the number they come up with, that certainly at that point, that the town's going to hopefully do what we need to do to get to that rest of that number. But I'm not comfortable with the language the way it is.
Thank you. Brian?
I see a chicken and egg problem is what I got from them. They say that they can't get their big donors to commit unless they have a commitment for the town. But the town can't ask the citizens for the money, not knowing whether or not the Friends of the Libby are going to be able to perform. So it does become a conundrum. Also, the Libby Museum, I can't remember where I heard the number, but it has a very, very small number of people who actually visit the museum during the year. That said, it does have some value. And my understanding when I did a walkthrough with them was that it would be a long-term project, is how we kind of talked about it. And then the letter came back, the email that said, we want it like this. And I think it's too quick.
I spent a lot of time thinking about it, because the concept that they're talking about, raising money for the facility, then raising money for an endowment, and eventually look at being able to manage it, that makes all the sense in the world to me, and the right way for us as a town to move forward. I was totally surprised by what I call a demand letter, that we turn around and we either commit to this or they are not going to fundraise. Look, this town hall, they raised $790,000, and at the end over $1 million, and the project had failed 3 times before the one passed. They were able to get donors to commit. The library got a $1.3 million. It was a 3-year plan. They had no guarantee that that warrant article was going to pass. We turned around and did that with Abenaki. We put money in a capital reserve. I think it was about $281,000, and they went out and they couldn't get that money until they went out and raised the other amount. So I said, okay, what do I do next? And I went back and I went to our guidelines for the CIP, and I feel we really needed to do some work on our guidelines for the next year. I don't know what we're going to decide, but we did talk about putting money in capital reserve accounts to spread it out, and putting $100,000 and spreading it out over a number of years, like we had talked about before, and Brad made sense to me. And then I went back and started looking at some of the projects that we had coming up that we're going to have to bond. We have the Route 28. It's going to come up in 2024. And if we're going to do anything outside the white line, that's the drainage and the curbing and the sidewalk, that's $1.5 million. We should bond that this year. There was in that CIP sewer pumps, and I think there were 2 of them, and I think they were looking at $1.5 million coming through on that. Pop Whalen, we're looking probably at $1 million for that, and obviously we're going to have to do some sorting. I'm just looking at what they were looking at. And then I went back to what are we already putting in CIPs? Well, we're putting about a capital reserve accounts. We're putting in about $1,620,000. So that's a lot of money. And then I went back to say, well, how did we come up with that $300,000 a couple of years ago that we decided to go in? Well, I can tell you why. We didn't fund the wastewater treatment plant capital reserve. We cut the console to the public safety building by $50,000. We didn't put any money in the dockside parking lot, and we cut the amount we were going to do the Bridge Falls Path. We took $245,000 out in order to put $300,000 in. So I just can't commit. I don't know where we're going to be.
I'd be curious to know how much they've already raised.
Well, I don't know how much they've already raised.
So we've already put $300,000 in. Why can't they come up with some of their fundraising now and meet a specific goal, and then we can address whether or not we can come up with more money? We need to see some good faith from them.
Yeah. I guess I feel like the whole thing was flipped around. They came in with a proposal. We said, we're willing to put up our 30% contingent upon you raising your $2 million, right? Now it comes back as we put our money in before they will raise, and I'm not in favor of that.
No, because they say they need more from us to lock in their big donors, but we've already put some there for them.
Yep.
It's their step next.
So I guess the question is, would we like to write, are we at the point where we want to respond to them with another letter? Because I think we do owe them a letter in response. Do you want to wait until the next meeting and think about it? It seems like we're all in agreement that this is a no-go for us. Shall we have the town manager draft a letter and that we review it at our next meeting?
That's what I'm thinking.
Yes.
And then send it out after that? Does that work?
I thought that'd be a good approach.
That works okay for everybody? Comfortable? Okay. Well, that's where we'll leave that. All right. The next item is the discussion on Task Force 1 Parade Fireworks Committee recommendation, and I'll turn that over to Jim, and you can get anybody to help you.
We had a meeting last Friday of Task Force 1. The main topic of that meeting was the parade. At that meeting, in attendance was a large number of staff. We also had a representative from New Hampshire Homeland Security. We had the CEO and Chief Medical Officer from Huggins Hospital. And we had the representatives from the American Legion here. We discussed the options for the parade and the parade permit. At this time, what the intent is the parade permit will be coming in front of the Board of Selectmen at the next meeting, first meeting in May. I don't recall what that date is right off the top of my head. For the Board of Selectmen to consider the permit. The American Legion has established a criteria of go, no-go. And the thought process is we would have a final revisit of that at our last Selectmen's meeting in June to determine what the environment looks like for COVID compared to their established criteria, and determine whether or not the parade is a go. But the thought process right now is that we will have the public hearing at the next board meeting with a thought process of signing the permit for approval so that they can start the planning. And if we get to a point and the numbers don't look good, we will pull the plug and not host the parade. I think the American Legion did an outstanding job in bringing together a document that makes some sense and will work for everybody. I'd like to thank the staff for their input on this. This was a very passionate discussion, and it got heated at times. But all in all, I think we're in a good place for the parade with an option to be able to say no if things do not look good. There are also some other events which are being scheduled or being worked through right now, and Christine's on. I'll allow her to speak on those if she would. But what they're really looking at in the future is trying to make this 4th of July activity more of a festival atmosphere rather than just a parade and a fireworks display. We're looking in the future of being able to have a parade with some events, an option for some of our nonprofits to do some fundraising, and then the fireworks display. Christine, can you just talk about some of the options that you are looking at with your subgroup about the 4th of July?
Yes. When the task force met, the things we were talking about were, we were thinking about the future in Wolfeboro, and partly we were thinking that these were events that we want to go year after year. So the American Legion really wanted us to keep that in mind. So what we did is we reached out to area organizations or businesses to see what they were currently running for events. And we are working out the details. I know that there's talks about doing a couple boat parades, one on Lake Winnipesaukee and one on Lake Wentworth. We're doing, last year we ended up doing a decorating contest with businesses and homeowners. We're gonna continue that this year. There's talks about doing a car show. So we're still working on all the details and trying to get permitting in. We'll still go through the whole permitting process, and I think we're all keeping in mind as we get closer to the date, what we can do and cannot do safely, and just will be dictated about what's going on. So they will go through the permitting process, and we're still working on a lot of details. So that's all I really want to speak about for now.
So, I mean, at the end, to close this up, I think there's a good plan in place. We're going to try to have this parade. Brad and Dave were present as representatives for the Board of Selectmen. If there's anything they would like to add to it, they're more than welcome to. Other than that, Madam Chairman, I'll take anything that the board may have.
Okay, Brad or Dave?
Well, the only thing I want to say is that we've had very good meetings in reference to this. It's been very cordial with everybody. Nobody's gotten excited like some meetings we go to. But the Legion is, you know, they want to listen. If people are in favor of the parade, let them know as well, the American Legion Post, or any of us. We've gotten, I know I have one, we all have one that we got this week in reference to the parade. So let us know what your feelings are. I know I've had a lot of people tell me they're in favor of it, but I still have a few questions personally. So. But I think the meetings, you're right, Jim, they have gone very well. And the back and forth has been really good. So I've been pleased with the meetings, but I think we need to make a decision probably at our next meeting when that application comes in, one way or the other.
Brad, do you want to say anything, or are you all set?
No, I just agree with everything that Jim and Dave both said. The meetings have been, very well run. They've been, a lot of input has come out from all parties, pros and cons for the parade and any issues that might arise from it. And a lot of good points have been made on both sides. And I think I agree with Jim. I think, moving forward in this fashion is a good way because we still have a date that we can, pull the plug on this if we feel that the numbers aren't working, as everybody's hoping they will. So I like where we're at with it right now, and let's, move forward and see where it goes.
Anybody else want to make any comments, concerns? I've got to say I'm very pleased. I think it fits in line with what we've done with our other permits that came in. We've granted them and told them to follow the COVID regulations. One of the things we did last year, because we had the COVID regulations, we came through and we canceled a bunch of things, and then 6 weeks later they changed, and we could have done some in a smaller scale. So I like the fact that we're going to move it forward and then take a look at the end to see whether it's a good decision. And I know the people of Wolfeboro really would like a parade. So I'm hoping that we can pull this off. And this is a good plan to measure whether we should go or not. Brian?
Yeah, I just wanted to say that I greatly appreciate everybody on the task force, everybody in town, people who have spoken on both sides. People want the parade, people don't want the parade. People have to be concerned about our safety. We have to be concerned about the ramifications. And I think it's been a very, very human and thoughtful process, and a lot of hard work has gone into it. And people have really done a great job of trying to do what seemed impossible at first and make it so that if it can be done, it can be done. And I think everybody did a great job.
Okay. Well, we'll get to talk again next time when we do the permit itself. Does anybody have any other business? Hearing none, we'll go on to committee reports. And I'll start over here with Brian, and we'll go down the line this way.
I had the privilege of sitting in on the Energy Commission, and some of the topics we talked about was the Bridge Falls Path lighting and how they'd like to have somebody from the board be on the lighting committee. I don't know if there is anybody right now, because you are? Okay. They said that they didn't know if anybody was on their committee right now, and they said that the Energy Commission is concerned about aesthetics coming before conservation. It was one of their concerns. We talked about the EV chargers in the municipal lot, and that's something that they're looking at addressing, having a couple of level 2 chargers for regular cars instead of just the Tesla chargers that we have in town that can only be used by people that are staying at certain establishments. They want to start identifying energy waste more, and they want to reinstall the energy tracking, which they said they had for a while and then it kind of fell to the side. They say it needs to be done. And they want to plan for energy efficiency at Pop Whalen, the police station, and the fire safety buildings as they come on, the same way they did for the library, because they think that there could be a lot of savings down the road with those buildings, as was done with the high school, with the geothermal field and whatnot. And they want to focus more on solarized Wolfeboro. They said they think that with the infrastructure package that may be coming from the federal government, we should start looking at more solarized for Wolfeboro. And other grants, I just heard today that there may be a grant coming through the state through a bill for EV chargers. So that could be something that would benefit us. I would really like to step up to a level 3 charger in town. I think it would make a lot more sense than level 2 chargers. I did listen in to the task force meeting, and I thought that was a great meeting. And I wrote down, and I'm still digesting the conditions in order to have the parade. They're pretty stringent. I think if those actually get met, I think that we could have a safe parade, which was great. I was happy to see that. And I sat in at an EDC meeting, and they tabled a marketing committee report because they're trying to figure out who and what they're marketing for. Are they marketing for businesses? Are they marketing? So they're in a discussion about right now about that. And they discussed the code of ethics and the rules of procedure and the municipal committee chair guide, and they decided to talk to the Board of Selectmen about some changes in some of those documents. And they discussed a 2021 work plan because they ran out of time.
I had my first police commission meeting. The chief briefed us on the numbers that are current, and they have received the new bike that was donated. So plan on seeing the chief out there this summer riding his bike around town. And so I sat in on the meeting with Linda on the chamber and got to meet everyone on the board. It was nice seeing so many people interested and talking about things that are upcoming in the near future.
Okay, and I'll go, and then we'll just run down the line. I was also at that Chamber Executive Board meeting, and it was my last time to have to give the Board of Selectmen's report, and I will pass that willingly over to Luke. I went to a Wolfeboro Waters Assessing Committee Subcommittee meeting, and we are talking about the testing and which tests we are going to do this in 2021. We will do all the standard tests that we've done in other years, but we're going to add some more tests to get a better idea what's happening in the bottom of the lake. I went to my first library trustees meeting. They're working out a few issues still with the building, but as they said, it's far better than the old building. And it was good to start getting used to that board. I went to a regular Wolfeboro Waters board meeting, and they're working on the Wolfeboro Bay, Back Bay, Watershed, and at our next meeting, they're going to come into a notice, bring a notice in for us to approve, and I'll leave all the specifics to that meeting. Today, I had a special event last night, Wolfeboro meeting. We spent a lot of time talking about whether we were going to do it in person, virtual. We took off virtual and decided we're going to do a hybrid. And we're going to do a hybrid because we thought there are some programs that went very well hybrid. Some people might want to do that and still have all our in-person events, and would allow us to shift if we had like a storm or something else coming in. We now can go either platform. So we decided that we're starting to look at where we could possibly have fireworks for last night Wolfeboro. There is $2,500 in the 2021 operating budget, and the committee's going to have to raise, well, we'd like to raise another $2,500 to have a nice firework display, along with doing the fundraising for this event. So we usually can self-fund just about all of it. So we will be coming around doing fundraising. And I joined Brian at the EDC meeting. Dave.
Yeah, I went to the Task Force 1 meeting, which you heard about, to deal with the parade and so forth, Independence Day. Also, tried to get into the Friends of Abenaki meeting and could not, because I'm not used to Zoom stuff yet, but I have had some lessons in that. So hopefully the next time I will be able to get in. But that's all for me at this point. Oh, ZBA, again, I was sick that night, so I didn't go.
Brad?
Yeah, let's see. Last night we had a planning board meeting. Happy to report that the continued public hearing for the for Stoneham Road, for the scenic road up there, for the tree removal, for for the town's project up there to rebuild the road was passed last night. And that says moving forward. At a Wolfeboro Community TV meeting this morning, and one of the things we talked about there is we developed a draft MOU that Jim will probably see in the next week or so here to take a look at that. We look at what other towns are doing that have the community TV stations, and they all seem to have some kind of an agreement between the town and the TV station. So we thought we'd try and draft one up using some of that language, present it to the town, get it looked at, see where it goes and everything there. So kind of keeping on with our MOU procedures for this year so far. As Dave said, and Jim, I attended the task force one meeting last Friday, and then I've had a couple of the subcommittees that Brian had just talked about, one of them being the lighting committee for the planning board. We've been talking about the types of lighting in town, the dark sky compliant, the Bridge Falls Path discussion has come up many times on involvement that we'd like to see there, the type of lighting and stuff, and when that starts to come forward. And also been on a stormwater management committee meeting. They're looking at not necessarily changing the stormwater management regulations we have, but more so in where they're placed in the ordinances and stuff, in the subdivision regs and site plan review regs, just to make sure that everybody understands what's required when and where and stuff like that. So that's been it for me.
Thank you, everyone. We'll move on over to the town manager's report.
I attended many of the meetings that you people have spoken of. Just a couple of other items. Met with Kathy Barnard and Rich Massey regarding the watershed management plan for Wolfeboro Bay, Back Bay. They plan on coming in front of you at the next Board of Selectmen's meeting with Pat Tarpey from Lakes Region Planning Commission to start some work on that moving forward. The task force meetings, those have been going well. Next week, if you're in the building, you may see the auditors will be here. So give them their space, please. They're going to be going through our books for the year 2020. We're still waiting on some final numbers for the roof. It's a frustrating process, but we hope to get more answers early next week where we're heading with the roof on Town Hall. And lastly, about Town Hall, if you come into Town Hall, we're just asking that you please consider wearing a mask coming in. A lot of our staff still has not had an opportunity to be vaccinated. So we're just asking that people consider wearing a mask to protect the staff. Other than that, that's all I have, Madam Chairperson.
Okay, thank you. Next item on the agenda is questions from the press.
Hi, Linda.
Hi, Melissa.
I don't have any questions right now. I can say I am impressed with all the ground that you've all been covering over the last few weeks. And you certainly have had some thorough discussions tonight, and it's very interesting and it's a lot to process. You all are very busy. Thank you.
Thank you. All right, next item, public input, 3 minutes per person, not to exceed 15 minutes. Is there anybody, we only have you virtual, is there anybody virtual who would like to provide us with some public comment. Mary?
Yes, please, thank you. Mary DeVries is here. First, speaking on behalf of the Chamber of Commerce Board of Directors, thank you, Linda Murray, for your long-standing support of and participation in our efforts through the Chamber Board of Directors. And to you, Lou, welcome. Look forward to the upcoming efforts that we all participate in. And then I also would like to speak as Mary DeVries, a resident and taxpayer of 25 plus years in Wolfeboro, during which I have seen the beaches being used respectfully. It's my opinion that Wolfeboro has a long tradition of setting high expectations for the care of its property by both residents and visitors. And for generations, Wolfeboro has invited families to all of its beaches. I have no doubt with the desire indicated by voters in March, the town will continue to manage all its beaches in a way that continues to welcome residents and visitors alike to create lasting memories. I would like to clarify also that as far as the closure of Brewster Beach last summer, it was not due to issues that were commented on or presented earlier in tonight's meeting. It was actually stated for public record on July 25th, 2020 by Parks and Recreation and Brewster Academy, and its announcement that Brewster Beach would be closed effective August 1st, 2020 as part of Brewster's preparation to welcome students back on campus during the pandemic. And thank you, Madam Chairman.
And thank you, Mary. Anybody, I guess Bobby Bowman, do you want to give some public input?
Yes, thank you. I also wanted to go back to section 6C and 6D of the agenda. I believe her first name is Patty Monahan, I believe, was speaking about getting the committee together. Brad had mentioned, I quote, take time on this committee. I just want to reiterate that we did pass warrant article number 35, which stated, and to direct the Board of Selectmen to establish a committee of volunteers to study the use of the town beaches and propose a unified plan. The thing I'm noticing tonight and that I listened to was Mr. Pinio and members of the board and other staff are already making decisions about putting signs up, having police, and putting cameras up. I just want to reiterate, we did sign that warrant article, and I do believe we should have a committee sooner than later instead of having town employees make decisions that our town citizens should be making. Thank you.
Thank you. Anybody else like to give public input? Suzanne?
Linda?
Suzanne?
Linda, this is Alyssa speaking.
Okay, you want to speak first? Okay.
Okay. I just have noticed that I often hear people say that the beaches, like Cary Beach and Albee, are resident-only beaches. And that sounds very limited, but actually it's residents, their family members, their guests, it's people who are staying in campgrounds, people who are staying in short-term rentals, the people who own those places have passes which those people can use. So it's not quite as restrictive as some people seem to believe it is, or to refer to it. It's not exactly residents only. Thank you.
Thank you for that clarity. Suzanne?
Yes, that was going to be my point, that it is not as restrictive to residents only. And further, the second point would be in regards to your taking initiative actions to protect your parking lot, which is town property, and your beaches, which is town property. And by the way, Albee Beach was paid for by the taxpayers. It was not a gift. That is your charge under state law. Your charge is to protect the real property of the town of Wolfeboro. And by what you've demonstrated, you've taken your initial actions tonight. You've done a yeoman job, and you were doing the proper thing, and I appreciate that. Thank you.
Thank you, Suzanne. Is there anybody else who'd like to give us any public input?
I'll move to adjourn.
Yep.
Second.
Wait a second. I didn't hear you. You want to? What did you just say?
I move to adjourn.
Okay. And that's Dave Senecal. And then I think I heard Brad.
You did.
Brad. To adjourn. And I'll start down there since you guys made the motion. Brad?
Yes.
Dave?
Yes.
I'm yes. Luke?
Yes.
Yes. Okay, thank you.